Hello?
Hey, can you see me and hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, let me play with the buttons.
There we
There we
go.
go. Hi, let me find the right angle so I'm not in the
Okay.
dark.
Okay.
I'm sitting in a chair that's got a blanket draped over it,
Oh,
and somebody moved it, and it's dragging on the ground, driving you nuts. Okay. Hi.
hello.
Is that, yeah, there's light. It's not, the light isn't like hurting the ability to see me, is it?
Nope, it's okay. It's good.
Okay, great to see you. Great to meet you and
Yeah,
talk.
good to meet you too, finally. And is it okay if I didn't ask you this, but is it okay if I record it?
Yes, I
Okay.
assumed.
Okay. Yeah. So I started recording it now, but yeah, well, geez, it's so awesome to meet you in person. Well, kind of, I guess, virtually, but
This counts.
and thanks for meeting me like on a Sunday when a lot of people just like to chill and relax on Sunday. So I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate yours.
Yeah. Where are you from now? Where do you live?
I live in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh yeah, Cleveland. Okay. Awesome. Nice. So I would just love to start by you sharing more about what you do, who you are, and kind of why you got into what you do. I'd love to know more about all that.
Okay. Well, my name is Sandy Gross, and my business is named Move Well Education. Uh, I'm 55 years old, and I say that proudly, soon to be 56, because part of my message is I want all people, but especially young women, to know that they can age well and it's fun. And part of that is becoming more at home in your body, and that's sort of a piece of the why of why I do what I do. Uh, but what I really do is I put the ed in physical education. Um, I'm sure all of us took PE in school, right? But it was mostly about play and learning sports and moving, which is great. But back when I was in school, physical education, there was more education involved. And that's sort of a lost art now. So it really does matter how you move. You really can move well. Um, and with the internet, you really can learn a lot about how to care for your body better, but it's also kind of confusing. So I often say that what I do is I help people make sense out of Dr. Google. Because don't we all Google symptoms and like, oh gosh, I'm dying, I have
Yeah.
ankle cancer. Um, when you really just maybe have tight calves and haven't really done much to your feet lately, right? So that's part of what I do. I have found success and clients within the athletic space. Most of my clients are active in some way, athletes, whether recreational or professional. A lot of what I do looks like active recovery, yoga, personal training, physical therapy, although I'm not a physical therapist. I'm someone that helps to educate about biomechanics, moving well, and more about what you can do for yourself to not have to medicalize every ache and pain that you have, meaning you don't always have to go to the doctor when something hurts. Helping to understand pain is also a lot about what I teach. Like, is that bad pain? Is that, productive discomfort? What's the difference? So that's sort
Right.
of me in a nutshell. How did I get here? I have a long fitness career starting back in my early 20s. And I've always been athletic. I played competitive soccer for 10 years. I danced a little. I swam a lot. I did swimming competitively too. And then luckily the fitness boom was kind of hitting right when I got out of college. So it was cool to go to work out. Um, uh, but back when my parents, that wasn't so cool. Fitness wasn't a thing. So that led me to the health club industry, and I started working and teaching fitness classes and then personal training. I dabbled in and out of yoga, always when something hurt. They'd say, go to yoga, you need to stretch. So I dabbled in and out of that for years. Then I went into teaching yoga. I decided that this was something I needed. It was helpful for me. 20-year yoga teaching career. I owned a studio in Cleveland, Ohio. I closed it 5 years ago because I just wanted to devote myself to more of the democratization of therapeutic means. And I started working with professional athletes and wanted more time for that. And here I am about 6 years, 5 years after that. And now I work with all sorts of people who care about um, wanting and believing more for themselves. So
I love
there,
that.
that's kind of the large overview.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you prioritize moving well first. And I took the FMS, the one of the, it was like the first certification a couple years ago. And my philosophy with, so I trained clients from teenage to older. And it's, to me, it's super important to move well first and then to kind of build from that. And so I love how you prioritize the functional aspect and moving well first and all of that. And so can you kind of describe the importance of moving well first and of functional movement and active recovery?
Yes. Well, I used to think that biomechanics and moving well and doing things right and in alignment, so to speak, was important. I was sort of a do good type of person. If you taught me something, I wanted to do it right. Right. And I took to movement real easy. You teach me something, I get it in a heartbeat. Um, so I got a lot of feedback and positive feedback for that. But what I know now is moving well, understanding the biomechanics of how something moves, seeing it from the inside out and choosing to care about moving functionally and understanding how your shoulder joint works and your hip joints. It isn't about being right, it's about being embodied. It's about having a deeper connection to the machine or the amazing plant that we are. Sometimes we're called machines, sometimes we called plants, but I relate to a plant a bit in that we come from a seed and we grow from that point. Whereas, a car is like pieces and parts. We're not pieces and parts. We are interconnected beings. So now when I'm in the gym or doing a class, a fitness class or a yoga class, it puts a smile, an inner smile on my face and in my insides, in my feelings about how I feel about myself. That I know that how I'm moving is actually contributing to my longevity, and not just to looking good on the outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I've become a better driver. Back to the machine analogy, or I'm taking really good care of my plant. I want it to live a long time, and we have that power now. We know that movement matters, movement heals, movement cures. So having the self knowledge of moving well really is valuable for lots of reasons.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And so one thing that I've noticed as a trainer, so I do personal training and then I train bigger groups and sessions that way, but I've found it a challenge to help people realize the importance of like everything you just described. And so, is there any tips or advice that you would give me or other coaches and trainers who maybe they know the importance of this, but it's kind of hard to convey that message so that their clients are prioritizing that too, instead of just wanting to get in an intense workout and just sweat and just kind of, just soreness and all of that?
Yes. Back to this phrase I used, how movement heals, movement cures. Um, we know now that movement, active recovery is the answer, rather than icing, for example. Back in the day, we were taught RICE, like rest, ice, compression, elevation. Well, that's no longer uh, the gold standard. Many strength and conditioning coach or physical therapist worth their salt knows that that is an old paradigm that is not being used at those elite levels. But active recovery is, which means movement matters, even at a small level. So for example, if you've ever gone down the physical therapy path for an injury, they get you moving, but it's much less intense than you would at a gym. They hand you a stretchy rubber band, right? That's hardly challenging at all. But what they're teaching you is that moving and strength building at a very small level is valuable. It doesn't have to hurt to work. right? So we also know that, like, let's just say I work with a lot of clients post-surgery to help them recover optimally and get back to doing what they love. Um, and again, micro movement. I have a client coming up who's having ACL surgery, and instead of, you know, 5 days with an ice machine on the sofa, which is what the medical model is going to give him, um, he's going to listen to his doctor and do that. But I'm teaching him ways to move on the sofa, from simply moving your hands and feet, ankle circles, things he can do. He can get up and sit for short bits and do some leg lifts and do some shoulder squeezes, and all that contracting and relaxing of the muscles moves fluid through your body. And that's all inflammation or that's all inflammation is it's a rush of healing fluids to an injury site, in this case the surgery site. But then you need to manage that inflammation. Throwing ice on it just stops the flow. So here's to your word flow. We want to manage the flow. So squeezing and releasing helps to manage the inflammation more effectively than ice. So I have to be careful not to step on the toes of the doctors and physical therapists. And I want this patient to do what he's most comfortable with. I just want him to be more informed. And this makes young athletes, especially any age, feel more in control of their situation. No one likes to be told to relax if you're an active person and you have to have surgery. It drives you insane. You want to do something. So this gives you something to do. So back to your original question, micro movement matters. All movement matters. Going for a walk, it doesn't have to burn calories. Move to decongest your system and to remove stuck stress in your body, which is what we call being tight sometimes. It's just lack of flow of movement or of hydration in your body. So something as simple as finger movements, to going for a walk, to contracting. Like when I'm on an airplane, I'll squeeze and release my glutes just to create some movement. You're kind of confined in an airplane, so you can't really move. I'll do some ankle circs. I'll march in place. There's ways you can control your situation with micro movements. And even going to get a massage from someone else if you're hurting, that's movement. It's just passive. Somebody else is locally moving your tissues to create fluid flow. Does that all make sense? So
Yeah,
movement
for sure.
matters. Yeah.
I love that. And that's something that I think anyone listening to, and for myself, can take away, like just micro movements. All movement matters. And just going for a walk or just sitting, like I love how you had the example of just sitting here, like hands, fingers, wrists, just doing circles like that. And that's too something I think even if someone doesn't have an injury or isn't limited, those are things that they can do too, when they're just kind of sitting there working, whatever it is. But yeah, that's that. And when you explained about rice, like the ice, and I remember growing up too, that was the number one thing that my dad would have us do after sport games or an injury a little bit. Like we would just ice. It's kind of the norm to just be like, yep, put some ice on it, you'll be good to go. So it's really good to know that information too. What
Yes,
is,
and it's still the norm. I want to add one little piece there. If anyone listening to this is a parent of a school aged athlete, um, and a lot of schools have athletic trainers now, they're still using ice. It's they mean well. They're dealing with a lot of kids at once who come in complaining that they hurt. So I get it. Throw them an ice pack. It buys the trainer time. Um, but at some schools, the trainers just are ill-informed. They think ice is actually being helpful. There's nothing more depressing than a star high school basketball player who pulls a groin muscle or tweaks something. They throw him on ice and he sits at practice with ice on him while he watches everyone else play basketball. When really he should be taught some movements to do while he's watching practice. That ice isn't helping him. But giving him something to do movement oriented, not only physically is better, it helps his brain stay in the game. He's not sitting down being told to rest and do nothing. So feel free to talk to your coaches. Call me, I'll help connect the dots with you and your coaches and provide you with information you can share with them. But coaches should not be putting kids on ice.
yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you also mentioned about the mental piece too. So how does that play a role with all of this? Whether someone is injured, like if they have to just sit on the bench like that mental aspect, the mindset of it all, how does that play a role?
Well, I'm sure lots of people listening to this can relate that when you do get injured and need to stop doing what you love for a moment or a week or a month, who knows, it's depressing because you love what you do. It's hard to rest. Um, and that's where active recovery becomes, it's a different kind of movement, lower grades, smaller, the Dynaband in physical therapy. Um, you need to learn what you can do. The medical model means well, but most physical therapists, I don't know of any physical therapy school that teaches you how to teach. I'm a trained teacher. You're a trained teacher. I know how to help someone learn and empower them to do something for themselves. Um, that's important. We need to be taught that we have more control than we really think. Um, so working with someone like me who's an active recovery specialist can bridge that gap between the injured person and the physical therapy model. So often physical therapy means well, it can solve problems that are beyond me. Um, but it's not teaching the person to do things on their own as much as it should. Um, and when you do teach someone to do something, you teach them how to fish. You teach them how to not be afraid of their body. You're not broken. You just have pulled something, or maybe you do have a true injury and you do need to stay out of the game for a while. But what can you do physically? Because we know movement heals.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sitting
So then,
sitting still on a bench with ice does not heal. That
right.
just slows it down.
Yeah. So then it also sounds like that gap between personal trainer and physical therapist is kind of just what you do of focusing on movement and what you can do to heal, like in that meantime.
Yes, at the end of the day, I'm a teacher of therapeutic practices. I'm a teacher of movement. I'm a teacher of active recovery so that you can do more for yourself in those situations.
Hmm. What about, I hear people all the time saying they kind of use age as an excuse to why they have pain, or just kind of like they're getting older, so they have this going on, this, and this. So when someone comes to you with that, like, oh, age is, I'm just getting older, what would you say to that person?
Well, to me, aging really is just lack of movement. We know that putting some muscle on the body is what helps you stay strong and helps you age well, right? That is movement. Um, so it's often just that someone is not as educated about their body as they should be. And that's the education piece, and why my business is named Move Well Education. That sometimes, almost all the time, uh, helping someone learn more and to respect and understand how their body works uh, is the missing piece for them. We tend to get disconnected from our bodies and trust the outside source, the person, the teacher, the physical therapist, to know more about our bodies than we do. Like whenever I go to the Apple computer store for my computer, they're called the Genius Bar, right? Well, those people are geniuses. I'm always in awe of what they know and what I don't know about my computer. Um, but if you've ever been to the Genius Bar or any tech support type place for your computer, they teach you how to use your computer better. And if you call tech support, like we've all had to do more of that during, COVID, more of the phone tech support, they teach you, they talk you through how to do things yourself on your computer. I know now that when my computer trips up, if I just shut everything down and let it rest for 60 seconds, maybe unplug and replug the modem, like we've all been through that to reboot the computer, right? This is kind of what working with someone like me is like. I aim to help you up level your knowledge so that someday you know what I know, a little bit more. To help yourself, and you gain confidence in your body. You're like, wow, this is an amazing machine or an amazing plant, but what can I do to take better care of it? That's the key to staying in the game for longer, to aging well. And it takes the fear out of aging. If you know more and understand the capacity of the human body, what it's capable of, and how long it can live. I mean, everybody's living longer these days because we know we've got more information about nutrition. We have more information about fitness. We have more information about so many things that everybody's up leveling how they live. So it's just helping to learn about, like I said, making friends of Dr. Google. Everyone's using the
Mhm.
internet to learn these things, but then sometimes we go down a path that's confusing, or you know um, we do too much of something. So finding some balance, helping someone sift through to give you just the stuff you need to know is a good way to help you age well and feel confident in that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I always get a lot of people, clients who come to me and they either have had surgery or told that they're gonna need to have surgery or some sort of joint replacement. And what if so if I have someone who they are told that they're gonna need to have a knee replacement or they're gonna have to have this, and that's the only other option, like that's all that they're being told. What are things that they could do to not go down that route?
Well, second or third opinions is good always. I think medical, just like everyone's up leveled their game in the last, 15, 20 years since we've started going online. I think the medicine medicine's gotten, more advanced as well. So there's that. It's different than 20 years ago when you would go to the doctor and surgery was the only option, perhaps. But a story I'll share is just 15 years ago, I had maybe it was a tear in my bicep tendon, a lot of pain right here that it hurt me in everything. So I eventually went to the doctor. I couldn't get rid of it myself. He wanted to do an MRI. He thought it was a tear. So we did. I went to usually an MRI is when they're prepping you for surgery. So that's an expensive test. So I did it, even though I was like, oh, wow. But it wasn't getting better. I wanted to fix it. So the MRI came back and he said, yeah, you have a torn bicep tendon and we need to surgically repair it. And you can schedule that whenever you want. And I said, well, can I go to physical therapy first? He says, you can, but you're going to be back here in 6 weeks needing this surgery. So I went to physical therapy. The pain didn't go away completely. I feared that he was right. So I didn't call him back. I wanted more time. So I began to get stronger in my own body. I went from the physical therapy exercises with the rubber band to a gym where I go and started lifting weights at a very light level. Instead of going back to what I was used to, I cut the weights to a third. And I felt very sad that I wasn't toning myself or building enough muscle to burn calories. You know what I mean? I felt like, I'm not breaking a sweat. But I knew to just keep the progression going from physical therapy. Something told me in my gut that if I just keep getting stronger, this will get better. Well, here I am 15 years later. I've never had that bicep tendon repaired. I've been pain-free since I got back into the gym, getting myself stronger. So there you go. I have no pain. I can do everything. I'm stronger than ever. So he was incorrect. He was incorrect.
That's
So
amazing.
there you go. There you go. And
Yeah.
nobody, not even that physical therapist said, okay, now go to the gym and get on a weight training program. They didn't say that to me. I just knew as a fitness instructor that made sense to me. Continue the progressive overload and get yourself stronger in that. I was doing a lot of yoga then, so maybe I needed a different kind of strength building than just the yoga.
Yeah.
So I began to prioritize weight training again about 15 years ago, and now that's my primary form of exercise.
Yeah, that's awesome. The body I think it's pretty amazing what it can do naturally when we just focus more on doing more of the natural things like weightlifting and functional movement instead of just going straight to a surgery or, things like that.
Yes. Find someone that'll help you understand the language of strength and conditioning and get yourself stronger in an appropriate, progressively overloaded way, and you can heal a lot yourself.
Yeah. I'm curious to know what your favorite part about what you do is.
Oh, connecting the dots for people, giving them faith in their bodies again, seeing the light bulbs go on, of someone who has lost hope in something. They feel they have to, like you said, oh, I'm just getting older, so it's normal that my joints hurt. No, it's not. It's not. I'm 55 and my joints don't hurt, and I don't anticipate them hurting. And if something does hurt, oh, I might need more yoga that week, or I might need a massage, or I might need more protein, more collagen in my diet, or, there's other things to look for
Yeah.
sure. More sleep.
Yes, sleep is so important. For me personally, I am someone, and I know other people struggle with this, but I personally struggle with prioritizing mobility. And I'm just so used to just like, I love weightlifting and high intense workouts at times, but I know the importance of mobility and maybe even doing yoga and stretching and flexibility. Do you have any tips for me or for anyone listening who it's just challenging to prioritize that? And maybe it's more just I need to just have it be a part of my regimen, be more disciplined. But would you have you worked with anyone who's like that?
Yes, myself.
There
I
you go.
mentioned earlier that I dabbled in and out of yoga for about 8 years before it really became a practice and a love. And to this day, I don't love yoga. Yoga is challenging for my mind because I like moving faster. I've had to learn to appreciate moving slower, yoga compared to, say, running, for example. But all movement matters, and you have to have a variety. You can't just go hard and then rest on the sofa. I mean, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, um, because we know movement heals. Active recovery is the answer. Um, so when I first fell in love with yoga after that 8 years of dabbling, I started with what helped me really embrace yoga was power yoga, hot power yoga. I liked moving and breathing and sweating. It kind of met me where I was at, my fitness self, it met that person. Slow yoga, where there was a lot of rest, was boring, and I just couldn't handle the stillness. Stillness, I think, takes some physical, some like mental maturity. You have to ease yourself into it. It's like jumping off a freight train or one of those moving sidewalks at the airport when you first get off and walk normal again. It's jarring, right? That's what yoga, slow yoga felt like for me back then. So I embraced hot power yoga. It moved and it flowed, and I got to break a sweat, and I felt it was hard at times. But I very quickly, like within the first year, realized this was kind of just feeding qualities in me that didn't need to be fed. It was feeding my competitive nature. It was feeding my aggressiveness in my body, and my ways of moving. And I had really gone to yoga for ways to learn how to stretch and recover from workouts. Um, so then I started to embrace slower flowing yoga and all the way to meditation. It took many years to appreciate those things, but once you start to get a taste of moving slower, it's a maturity that you go through. I started this in my 20s, and then now here I am in my 50s, and I now value fast movement, slow movement, no movement. I think it's important to develop and cultivate a taste for all the ways of moving, right?
Yeah,
It
I
it
agree.
it's but be patient with yourself and know when you're doing something. That's what's so great about yoga is that you're invited to watch your mind in these things. That's really the practice. So you notice the the uncomfortableness in the slow parts of yoga. That's what I did. I started to go, here's the magic. I'm noticing that the slow parts are hard for me, but yet I'm here to slow down. So breathe, right? Go into the difficult moment and take a deep breath. For me, the moving part was easy. It met my busy self where I was at. It was the slowness that
Mhm.
was hard, but I knew there was magic in that for me, for sure.
Yeah, I love how you said that, and I love how you said like to appreciate and embrace the slow movement. And I also love that you said you were started that maybe in your 20s and then now you're in your 50s and you've come to really have value in that and appreciate that, because I think that with
Hmm.
anything we do, it takes time. It takes years and years, like a lifetime of it. So I like how you pointed that out. It's not just a month, a year, 2 years, like it's really this long process that takes
Yes.
a while. So I did.
Well, and fitness people, be it trainers, coaches, or participants, need to understand that the body isn't just your muscles. You know, your fitness body is also your nerves. And that's really what yoga addresses, the nervous system. And and fitness revs up our nervous system. Yoga winds it down. And depending on, fast power yoga or, that's going to be more like fitness, right? Um, Uh, but you have to give your nervous system, you have to give it both, right?
Mhm.
You need to challenge yourself in order to grow strong, but you need to slow yourself down so your rest, your sleep can be high quality and dense. If you're just always doing fitness and then collapsing on the sofa, there's no active recovery in there. Active recovery are life skills of being able to manage stress. So it isn't just for for fitness recovery. It's also for managing mental health, right?
Right.
We can learn to talk ourselves down off of a ledge or out of some anxiety. There are
Mhm.
skills that we learn in yoga and other ways. There's other mind body practices, of course, but yoga is a very valuable one that teaches us how to work with our mind and our nervous systems in order to have that skill of being able to step off the freight train without feeling jarred.
Right. And that's definitely one aspect of health and wellness and fitness that people just don't look at or prioritize a lot is the nervous system part. So I love that you said that, and how you described that, the nervous system, and then day-to-day life, mental health, all of that. What about I want to talk kind of about foam rolling and myofascial release. Do you use that a lot? How is it helpful? How is it not helpful? How should people use it?
Yes, that's a big part of what I do for myself and what I teach people. Self-myofascial release or self-myofascial massage. Think of it, we'll paraphrase and call it self-massage for today's context. I have all the tools, baskets around my house in different rooms with all the tools. My favorite tools are these right here. The brand is Tune Up Fitness role model method balls. You can get them on Amazon, on my website, several places. You might be maybe can link in your show notes here.
Mhm.
Um, for those, they're inexpensive, they're portable, they're grippy, rubber, pliable, and they're just a superior tool to a foam roll. It's hard to travel with a foam roll. Also, the foam roll doesn't really create shear or local stretch on the surface, whereas this rubber grippy ball mimics more of the hand of a masseuse. And when I twist this on my skin surface, you can see a micro stretch happening underneath the ball through my skin. So foam rollers don't do that. Tennis balls don't do that. They slip, right? So uh, let's see, what else can I say about that? Once again, working with the nervous system. When you go get a massage from someone else, it's usually an hour or so, and they kind of ease in to how they massage you. They don't just jump on you with strong hands and start attacking tight spots. Your body would brace and you'd resist, right? No, they get the lotion on, the room is warmed up, they've got the music and the aromatherapy. They're trying to help you relax your nerves. So they go in slowly with their hands to work with the fascia, connective tissue, which is very viscous and thick like gel. So it moves slower than water, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you need to work with it slower and kind of slowly, going in slow with light pressure to medium pressure, maybe surface level, and then they start to dig in a little bit. So there's a process, and that is a communication with the nervous system, because if something comes at you too hard, too fast, you just brace. But if something comes at you slow and methodical, you're more apt to receive the pressure of that massage. Make sense? So
Right. Yeah,
that's
that
all
makes
about
sense.
working. The same thing with the yoga, you gotta,
Yeah.
ease into it. Um, and give yourself grace and patience as you do, just like receiving the pressure of a massage.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll definitely link those in the show notes. I've never seen those before or heard of them, so I definitely need to look into that. So I had a few people ask me some specific questions about things that they're going through, like pain and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to see if you would have any feedback for them, and then we'll kind of go into like a closing after that. But
Sure.
so let me see here. So one of them, knee pain, like general knee pain, and then also I'm a runner, and I know some other people are. They go running and they'll eventually have knee pain. I've heard and kind of done my own research of it could possibly be because of our feet or posture or hips. But what would be? Can you just kind of speak into that with knee pain in general, and then also running with running, and if we can do anything specifically to help with that?
Well, of course, it always depends. So please
Right.
take what I say with a grain of salt and in a framework of it depends. Um, but usually, if you're an active person and you have knee pain, think about what you're doing and can you reduce either the load or the duration or the speed. Can you reduce the things that you can control and continue what you're doing without pain? Then you have a bit of a solution, a movement oriented solution, right? If reducing the load or the speed or the endurance or the things I just mentioned doesn't change, can you reduce more? In other words, can you walk instead of run? Can you cycle instead of run? Can you do yoga instead of run? Don't stop moving, just change what you do for a short bit. You need a variety of movement options in your toolbox, especially you runners. I know you like to run and you don't like to do anything else,
Yeah.
but your body needs movement variety. You wouldn't just brush one of your teeth over and over again. You brush all of your teeth, right? Your body's the same way. So when your knee hurts from, say, running, shift gears and go lift weights for your upper body. You know, all of your teeth, all of your joints need attention. So there's that. If none of that works, you might need an x-ray. Um, you might just need a good massage. You might need an appointment with someone like me who can help you figure out what's more specifically causing the knee pain.
Mhm.
Um, you don't, again, a physical therapist is not going to take an educational approach like someone like me. Like you'll spend a full hour with me, whereas a physical therapist, you're going to go for 20 minutes twice a week. Whereas each session of mine is at least an hour. Uh, in the beginning, we have to front load with some education first before we get into the personal training aspect of it. Um, so how's that? Is that
Yeah,
good? Also learn how to use these massage balls. Maybe you just
mhm.
have tight quads, or maybe your calves are tight, or your feet need a massage.
Yep.
Often working up and downstream from the knee can feed slack to the knee, and you might have your problem go away in a hurry. That didn't need a doctor. That didn't need Advil. That didn't need a physical therapist, right?
Right.
98% of what's going on is probably a movement related problem.
Right.
It does
Yep.
not need to be medicalized.
Yep. That makes sense. What
And those
about
are just those are statistics from physical therapists, by the way. That's from the medical community.
oh, what about shin splints? I know some people struggle with that, but is there something they can do to help with that, or yeah, anything with shin splints?
Yes, that's usually a progression issue. This is the spring, and I know people might be starting to ramp up running, but you've got to ramp up slowly, especially the older you get. Um, walk, jog, walk, jog, run, have
Mhm.
you can Google a tiered running strategy to get going. Check your shoes, make sure you've got some skill behind how you run. Um, you can use your hands to massage your shin. I'm doing this. Imagine I have my knee up here and I'm below my knee and I'm kind of using my hands to do some self massage on my shins before and after my run. Some tibia lifts. There's a new product on the market called a tib bar, that allows you to add a dumbbell to the tibia bar. You lace your feet in it and you do some extensions, strengthening your tibias. You don't necessarily need that bar, but people that do a lot of jumping and running tend to find adding more load through that tibia bar to be beneficial. I think it's much more of a progression issue. So back off, massage, go back to, back off that load and speed and duration idea.
Yep, yep, awesome. What about, so someone had asked about low back pain. So if there's anything they could do to strengthen low back pain, or if there's anything they can do just help with the back pain.
Yes, as always, it depends. So let's
Yeah.
put that framework over it. Um, strengthen your glutes. And you've heard to strengthen your core, all of that. Um, think of your low back as this spot in between your glutes and your core. So if you strengthen your core and strengthen your glutes, and I think of the glutes as the backside of your core, you'll do your back a lot of good. Also, learn yoga. Find a yoga practice that you can do
Mhm.
once or twice a week when you're going through back pain, and pay attention to what feels helpful and stay away from what feels hurtful. It's quite simple.
Yeah.
Your body has a lot of wisdom. It'll give you Pain is information. It's a language that's describing to you to do more or less, right? Less pain means go ahead, do more. Pain means back off,
Yep, yep,
right? Be a good
exactly.
partner with your body. Pain is your language of of understanding.
Mhm. Awesome. What about, so just a couple others, exercises for tight hips, and this, I think yoga would definitely help with this, but if someone has tight hips, is there any other things they can do?
Well, it depends, of
Yeah.
course. Some, okay, so first off, of course, stretching. Why stretching works, and I consider self massage with balls stretching, uh, when you pair it with deep breaths, that disarms the nervous system from any chronic holding or what we call tightness, and helps your body uh, reduce the grip or the tension in that area. So if you're going to do any stretching at all, don't just force your hip into a stretch. Go easy and take some deep breaths. That's the beauty of yoga, right?
Mhm.
On the flip side of that, sometimes hip tension means that you could be overstretching. I see this a lot in the yoga community. They come to me with hip pain and they've been overstretching. So I teach them how to strengthen their glutes, and I can do a handful of I can coach someone through some movements to determine if I think they need strengthening or stretching. And usually in the yoga space, yogis are pretty stretchy and they need to strengthen more.
Mhm.
That was
Yep.
certainly the case for me. I had a little bit of hip pain for a while years ago, and getting to strengthen my glutes more took that pain away. Not more stretching.
Awesome. What about, so this last one is a little bit more specific. Just I'm sure it still depends again, but she said that so she has problems with her hip and knee, and her specialist says it's the muscle that connects the two joints, the two joints, and it's those muscles that bother her. And so, and they flare up, and then it kind of limits her from exercising the way that she wants to. So I think this is someone who would definitely benefit from coming directly to you. But is there anything else that you can speak on about that?
Well, there's a handful of muscles that cross over both joints. So I'm wondering if she was told which one or ones are the culprits. Are we talking quadricep muscles? There's two that cross over the knee and the hip. There's hamstrings that attach at the hip and cross over the knee. So front and back of the leg and hip. I would need to know more to speak to that.
Yeah,
But you're right. That's a case where movement education would be helpful for someone like that. Um, and that's again what the doctors don't prioritize. That's not what they're
yeah,
trained in, frankly.
yeah.
They're there to find real hard stuff that I can't figure out.
Mhm.
Like a torn something, right? That's
Sure.
beyond
Yep.
my scope of practice. Uh, so it sounds like she's got some overtension in certain areas, or maybe even some undertension, and that's what I help people figure out and solve. So have her look into movement education. I'm wondering if this person is active already, doing some basic movements in the gym, like leg extension and leg curls might be something good for her. And when done at a lower weight with breath, they act as a stretch and a strengthening agent. So she just might need some movement around both joints.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna send her like directly to you because I think she really could use that. So before I go into my very last question, where can people go to learn more about you and what you do, and where can they connect with you and get like any help and information from you?
Well, there's a handful of ways I'm glad to have available for people now. Again, my business is called Move Well Education. My website is movewelled.com. And from there, you'll see a whole host of ways of working with me. The least expensive way is through my virtual studio, where I teach some weekly classes for 20, or I think it's $40 a month. There's ways to buy in at lower, like you can get 3 months for $59 and really kind of do an immersion into my whole library of 80 plus classes. Let's see, that's the least expensive way. Then there are I have a program called Driving School for Your Body, which takes you through the most potent lessons of my 12-session private one-on-one program called Move Well Ed. So Driving School for Your Body. is the physical education that we all need and perhaps never got, but it's never too late. Those are 6 videos between 30 and 50 minutes each, with 3 handouts with with notes to print out ahead of time. We do not use the therapy balls in there. You just need yourself and what you have at home. I can't recommend that program enough. That is, I think it's $197 is the cost of that program, and then you get some freebies in there as well. To work with me one-on-one, I have a 12-session program called Move Well Ed. Actually, you can do that program with me in 6 sessions, where maybe you've got a specific problem to solve, and we start there. That's my silver package. It's called Repair and Refine. Then the gold package is the 12 sessions. It's got more information in there, and we include Repair and Refine, and then we get actually into some personal training. Then I have a program that includes a 3-month, working with me for 3 months, called the Platinum Program. So we take you through repair, refine, personal training, and then we meet weekly for a session, and then we meet on the phone for an accountability call once a week and answer any questions you may have, but you're getting more independent at that point. There's also a 6-session nutrition add-on with that is a must if someone is aiming to up-level their nutrition game. And that's really fun because it's not a diet, it's about learning more about food and your relationship to food. And there's many ways I work with people on that, depending on what interest level you have and what kinds of foods you want to prioritize. I've worked with people doing Whole30. I've worked with people doing the carnivore diet, doing a ketogenic diet, doing getting off sugar, just clearing out all sugar from your life and what that's like. And I think that's a really important piece to add on to any of those programs. And we do a refrigerator makeover, a pantry makeover, and I help you cut to the chase on some ways to move into these ways of eating with a lot of greater ease than spending years figuring it out on your own. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it. I'm trying to think
Yes.
if I left anything out. My Facebook page is probably my most active. My newsletter, I have a weekly newsletter called the Weekly Pit Stop, and you can get there from my website. Once again, movewelled.com. That's juicy with information weekly from ways to up-level your mobility, capability, and confidence. And that's about it. Those are my most active places, Facebook and my newsletter.
Awesome. I will definitely link those in the show notes for anyone who wants to look that stuff up. And I love that you have the nutrition piece in there. I actually didn't know that. So that's really cool. I know people are always wanting to just simplify nutrition. They don't really know where to start, how to do it. So that would be very valuable for anyone. I love that. So my last question is, I like to just ask my guests this at the very end, but what does it mean to you to flow with the grow?
I love that phrase, first of all. It's a great
Yeah.
one. It's very rich, it's very deep, and it gives you a lot to contemplate, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it reminds me of my favorite word, which is the word practice. In yoga, the word practice and the word process are the same Sanskrit word. It's sadhana, and it basically means that growing is a practice. So that reminds me a lot of your phrase, grow with the flow, meaning that you're learning, you're flowing, and you don't have to be perfect. Learning and growing along the way is the way. So
Yes,
that's
I
what it
love
means to
that.
me.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely going to like re-listen to this. I learned a lot from you today. And
Thank
so
you.
then, yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I will probably reconnect with you again to make sure I got all like the links and stuff. And yeah, but just thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Sophia. You have a great attitude. Your listeners are very lucky to have you. You are a very open-minded, curious, excitedly curious person about other people, about yourself, I'm sure, and about
Mhm.
movement. And that really is the answer. If you are feeling stuck and you're feeling broken and you're feeling underconfident about yourself, check in with a movement professional like yourself, like me, someone who is going to help you, instead of saying no, finding the yes in what you can do. So nice job to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, We will chat soon. Have a great rest of your Sunday as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sophia.
Thanks.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.